This is Scott and Lars doing the anime stuff. This is the Need for Weed podcast, even though this is technically Camille's Harem on the YouTube channel. It just depends on where you're listening to it.
Exactly. Depending on where you're listening to, this is what you're going to get.
We're just a bunch of goofballs talking about writing in anime. That's just the job. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks. So this is our pre-anime manga review for the winter 2022 season. If you haven't heard any of our Need for Weeb episodes before, what we do is we go through the winter 2022 season lineup. We're going to pick out 10, and we're kind of changing it up right now, but we pick out 10 that have manga available for it, and we go and read the manga, at least 5 chapters or so. We do a little bit of research into it, just so we're able to get a feel for what's coming out this season, and we're able to tell for ourselves what we're going to be interested in and what we're not going to be interested in. And it's pretty much just that. We're just going to kind of go through a list, talk through it. For returning anime, we've got continuation of Shingeki no Kyojin, Attack on Titan, always popular.
Always popular, but I refuse to watch any more of it because it's garbage.
Right.
It's garbage is what it is. And no one can convince me otherwise. The moment that Nux Taku decided to stop advocating for how good Attack on Titan is, that's when I knew I won.
Ooh.
I outlasted the troll. So
here's your prize.
I love Nux. I actually do. I love his channel. I love the guy, but that's where he and I disagree.
Right. Demon Slayer is continuing, which I need to sit down and actually watch the new stuff that's coming after Mugen Train. Even though I've read all of the manga bits and pieces I've seen online, I really like the look of. Yeah. So I really need to do that one. Arifureta Shokugyo. What is the English name for that one? From Common Job Class to the Strongest in the World.
Yeah.
It's an overpowered isekai one with a lot of edge. Edge and harem action to it.
Edgy harem. I've tried to watch it and I just couldn't. Why is it? I would love to know. This would be a great side discussion in and of itself. Why are there so many stories that just focus in on an OP character and they just botch it? Mm-hmm. This is one of the reasons why people this is why OP has such a bad stigma to it. Is that people are like, it can't be done well. It's always annoying. It's edgy. It's dumb. It's just wish fulfillment. And OP is actually a really great way to take certain characters. Sometimes it can open up all different kinds of storylines. Really great character development, and it's been done actually in a lot of really great stories. Yeah. But this garbage is why the idea of OP stories, just overpowered characters, overpowered storylines, whatnot, just are not widely accepted. And yet, at the same time, people love watching this kind of stuff because they just want to see the edgy harem. That's basically it. If you took away the edgy harem, the story would collapse.
Yeah. It's a very good example of wish fulfillment in this kind of genre. What not to do, especially with wish fulfillment in this kind of genre. And it ends up kind of sad, if anything.
Yeah.
Then we'll move on to the next one. Yeah, Lars isn't happy about it. A Realist Heroes Kingdom Restoration Chronicle. I didn't really get much in the first season, though I have read a bunch of the manga for this one. And I feel like the longer the story got, the more political things got as you're involved with different parts of the kingdom that they're trying to rebuild and the countries outside of it. And so that complexity actually ends up saving it later on, even though towards the start it's a bit idealistic, as it's these are common Japanese ideals that we're gonna put onto this fantasy world, and then it starts changing and it's but we're still at war. We still need to take care of these other problems that are going on, and Japan ideals aren't always going to answer that question. And I felt like it got better as it.
And I like that. I like when stories are self-aware enough to be realized the Japanese protagonist doesn't necessarily have it right. and
just because you know how to make mayonnaise doesn't mean it's God's gift to man.
Exactly. Exactly. This is an anime that I actually want to binge when it's done. When the second season's done, then I want to sit down and actually want to binge through it because I feel like I'll get more enjoyment out of it than otherwise, because it is the slow world building. And it works really well, for instance, in novel form, where you can get highly invested in the intricacies of politics, economics, statecraft, and everything like that. But with a show, that is way, way harder to pull off. Like, I am amazed that Spice and Wolf does economics so well, because there's other shows that actually do economics, but they don't do it nearly half as well as how they do it in Spice and Wolf. And it's a beautiful blend of characters, plot, and economics.
Yes, I agree. Then after that, we have second season of The Case Study of Vanitas, still by Bones, I believe.
What is this one?
It's the vampire one from... I thought we talked about it in our last episode.
It's not ringing any bells.
Yeah, very historic.
I obviously didn't watch it.
Yeah, I want to sit down and watch it. I mean, it's animated by Bones. The animation's going to be beautiful, if anything. And the story was intriguing. It's one that I want to sit down and binge. I just haven't found the time to do it. And then last one on the list for returning that I can see anyway is Teasing Master Takagi-san, which is getting season 3.
It isn't Mushoku Tensei also going on to...
Probably.
Okay.
It recently ended a season at the very least.
I think it might have ended a season.
86 is one that's continuing.
86. I need to sit down and binge 86. I've heard so many good things about it. I've just been so busy, I haven't had time to watch it.
Right. I'm looking at a list here, and I'm not seeing Mushoku Tensei.
Okay, it's okay. I just brought it up because I saw its poster right here, and was like, oh, that's one that I want to get all the way through that one. Because I want to compare the redemption arcs for the main characters between Mushoku Tensei and Faraway Paladin. Both of them were a character who was a horrible person in their previous life, is reincarnated in another world, starts off as a baby, retains all of the information from their previous life, and so they're given an interesting second chance in another world. And the two characters go in very different directions. Rudy is from Mushoku Tensei is just he's still pretty much a predator. He's a horrible person. In Mushoku Tensei. Will, on the other hand, Will is just like, I am going to take this opportunity that I have been given, and I swear I'm going to be a better person. And then that's compounded by the fact that he makes such a powerful pact with his goddess that if he does regress in any kind of way, the guy's screwed.
Yep.
So I like the comparison right here, and I kind of wanted to do a comparison and be like, okay, really do a deep analysis into it and try to figure out why these work, if they work for both stories, and which one, at least I would say, has the better redemption arc for their character, because they're both about redemption. Which one does it better? Right.
All right. Do we want to move on to what's coming up?
Yeah.
Do we want to start with regular anime, or do we want to start with isekai? Because there's...
You know what? Let's start off with the regular anime.
Okay.
Let's give the regular anime some real time in the spotlight.
Okay. What one do you think we should start on?
Let's start off with Sabuki Bisco.
Okay. This one I am looking forward to, because I read the manga a while back and found out, I think you were right earlier. We were talking about it earlier, and you were saying that the light novels are a whole much bigger thing than the manga is, and online you can only find 3 chapters. Apparently, the light novel has gotten a lot of serious light novel based awards in Japan.
Yes.
And so it's not a surprise this is coming out as an anime. It really isn't. But I think it's going to be absolutely insane, and I love it. And I think
that what I'm thinking right here is that what is out of the manga so far is just going to be the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be much.
Like an episode and a half, because because when I looked at the light novels, they're so fast paced and there's so much crazy stuff. And there's stuff I think from the 5th light novel that was already shown in the promo for this for this show. So that means we're going to be moving really fast through an insane world, and I really like it. I put my little note right here on our document. I said this one has my attention, but it's almost too bizarre. I love insane stories. I really do. They're very hard to pull off.
Yes.
You have to somehow convince your audience that this insane world can exist and that they want to be a part of it by watching your show.
Yeah.
And that's really, really hard to do. You either have to do it totally tongue-in-cheek like Deadpool or Fooly Cooley, or you have to be so married to the idea like Decadence. Like Decadence is honestly bizarre and off the walls, but in a completely different way because it's so serious. It's so serious about what it is. Even though it's self-aware, it's still serious about what it is. And that makes Decadence so amazing. And so I'm hoping that Sabiki Bisco can kind of pull off like the Decadence feel, because I think that's where it's going to go.
I hope so too. It is by, at least from what I can see here, the company producing it is a newer one. I'm not seeing anything listed under their name, and I'm wondering if it's probably because they're a split off of some company, of some bigger company, but I don't know the details there, unfortunately. I just know, just looking up Oz right here, Sabiku Ibisco is going to be their first actual listed show.
Huh. Interesting. Say best of luck to them.
Best of luck to them. I'm looking forward to it for sure. We can move on to Requiem of the Rose King, and this one I really want to hear your thoughts on it because you're the history buff in the group, and this is very much like Rose War England, though from what I understand of it, it's basically a twist on one of the Henry plays by William Shakespeare. But
yeah,
I still want to hear your take on it.
This is one. Okay, so this is one that I didn't get the chance to read through the chapters. So I'm just right now looking at like the very basic plot and an overview of this right here. Here's the thing: if they base it on the play rather than on the actual history.
Right.
Yes, it's a show, so how historically accurate can it be? It's going to play off of what Shakespeare did. And Shakespeare wasn't necessarily always accurate to history. When he wrote these plays, he wrote them as propaganda because the Tudor family were the ones who had sponsored the establishment of the theater that he was at, the Globe's Theater.
Okay.
So he has to suck up to the people who actually won the War of the Roses.
Okay.
So he heaps on a lot of praise onto them, and he then vilifies the people who have been a part of the War of the Roses and the 100 Years' War, who opposed the ancestors of the Tudor dynasty.
Okay.
Which isn't always the way that we might want to actually view the history, because if we actually look into the history itself, some of the noblemen who you might see as villains within this anime would have actually have been the heroes to the English people, and not necessarily to the Tudors. So this will be an interesting one to watch right here and see what they do with it, because it's going to be an adaptation of a play, which is a propagandized version of the history.
True. When I was reading it, I was very much like, it's very dark and brooding. You can definitely see a lot of the abusive upbringing the main character goes through, and it isn't really until they meet, I think they meet actual like King Henry of the time, that they find somebody that doesn't outright hate them in some form. The father does like them, but like everybody else absolutely abhors the main character, basically. But then you meet Henry, and I could sense a bit of yaoi coming in between the main character, who's like 15 at the time, and King Henry, when they randomly meet, and then they just keep meeting randomly, like bits and pieces. I only read 5 chapters, but it had a lot of different stuff going on. A lot of like the fighting and who won this battle, who won that battle kind of idea.
I'm definitely getting the yaoi vibes.
Yes. Well, part of it is because they keep the main character's gender identity pretty
ambiguous.
Loose. Yeah, it's pretty ambiguous. It's pretty ambiguous for the most part. From what it looks like, it looked like the main character probably, historically, if it were the case, they probably had what was called Klinefelter syndrome. I think that's what it's called. It's where you express like the secondary characteristics of both of the classic genders, basically.
Yeah.
And like
here,
and that's where a bunch of the abuse comes from, especially from the mother.
Yeah. Let's see here. So I'm looking at this right here. So he's a Yorkist. Yeah, the Yorks and the Lancasters. I mean, I'll be honest right here, like looking at knowing what I know about the War of the Roses, I tend to side more with the Yorksists.
Okay.
Which actually puts me on the losing side. I don't know if that's going to be spoilers for the anime at all, because the Yorksists lose.
Oh no!
At the end of the war,
okay.
And in a way, actually, the Lancasters lose as well because the Tudors take over afterwards. Because the Lancasters and their entire faction basically, it's like a Pyrrhic victory. They managed to finally beat the Yorksists, but like at what cost? They've wiped out nearly all of the major noble houses that supported them. Nearly all of the candidates to the throne are dead, which is why they then need the Tudors, because the Tudors have a claim to the throne. So the Lancasters take on the Tudor family, and they're like, hey, we'll put you on the throne. It's not the Lancasters who end up on top, it's the Tudors who end up on top.
Right. Okay. Want to move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to Sasaki Tomiyano, which is...
real yaoi.
Yeah, it's softcore, if anything. But it definitely goes in that direction. It's very slice of life, easygoing. It definitely has like a fan base, but they're not the most vocal fan base, if anything. At least from what I...
The last time I went to Barnes & Noble, I saw this manga all over the place.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it was being featured very prominently. Now that might be because anime is coming out, and whoever is taking care of the manga section is tapping into that. There are a lot of copies of this out there.
Yeah.
At least where I'm at.
Okay. I don't see that many copies in the Barnes & Noble that I work at, but we do have it on a display of like new upcoming season, which a bunch of these are on. And Sasaki Tomiyano is definitely one that's on that. But yeah, if you're looking for good boys love, light, slice of life kind of idea.
I'm going to intercede right here with something that I just recently put out, at least as of the recording of this. I brought up for the Amazon Wheel of Time series, how I was very, very angry with what they did with a lesbian couple within the series.
Okay.
That they had taken two straight characters, made them lesbian, and okay, if you want to do that, I mean, then that's up to you guys as the creatives. But then they proceeded to portray these two as hopelessly in love in an extremely toxic relationship. It was bad. It was so hard to watch their scenes together because it was such a toxic relationship. It was really all about the sex. If you're going to use LGBTQ couples in your story or make them even a focal point of the story, I would prefer it if you showed them in a more positive light, because to be quite frank, most Western media doesn't actually do that.
Yeah, I agree.
And so looking at this right here, Sasaki and Miyano, this is something that I feel like should be done a whole lot more.
Yeah.
This is way more healthy, and that kind of ties into the whole slice of life, that it's just it's two boys spending quality time together, getting to know each other, sharing moments, young love. Do more of that, please.
Yeah. And it very much falls into line as like, well, these two, right off the bat, you wouldn't expect them to get together in any sort of fashion, because like one's very much a nerd, the other one's very much kind of a jock, but they find out, oh, we actually get along really well when we're together and actually get to know each other. And, like, that's kind of where the story goes from there. And like I said, just easy going.
Yeah.
Want to move on to the next one?
Move on. Yeah. So what's the next one we want to talk about?
Let's talk about Orient.
Because
that one seems kind of fun. It's... If you've read or watched Magi, this is by the same creator, the same author. And it's very much the same kind of insanity, if not worse.
Okay.
Like, we just went from, like, easygoing slice of life to aliens have taken over the world, and it's up to people with swords to save the day.
Yes. On motorcycles.
On motorcycles, yes.
I want to see this. I want to see this right here. This is my kind of insanity. Right here. Which, once again, is honestly hard to pull off. It's hard to pull
Yeah.
off this kind of crazy right here. So I'm rooting for it. I could understand if it's not everyone's cup of tea.
Right. It falls very much into the boys shonen category.
Mhm.
If anything, this is for kids that are from like 8 to 15. You know what I mean? And
Yep, so
a lot
we're
of
gonna have crazy
action.
fights,
Yeah, a lot of
shouting,
action, crazy
eating.
fights, shouting. It very much falls into that, but I think it's a good representative of that. If you're into that kind of stuff, you like watching that kind of stuff, it's a good one to go to.
Okay, I actually want to quickly put a hook into this line of thought right here.
Okay.
Because this is, I don't know, Scott, if you've run into this a whole lot, but I feel like I have found myself like really, I don't know how, but I've waded into this debate a whole lot about shonen genre. Recently. And like, I feel that as of right now, there's almost a misconception of what the shonen genre actually is, and that there's now like a more recent interpretation of shonen versus like the stuff that like you or I probably would have gotten like more used to, at least my introduction into anime with Dragon Ball, Bleach, Naruto, One Piece. I feel like those pillars of shonen are largely forgotten, and that now there's like a new post fairy tale shonen, which isn't really shonen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can kind of get that feeling. I mean, any kind of genre is gonna experience a change as you go forward in time. If we're looking at it this way, it definitely falls back into that kind of classic shonen perception, like right next to like Black Clover and Fairy Tail and Magi. You know what I mean? Very much falls in right next to those. If anything, you kind of have to take a look at what age group a shonen or like any anime is based towards. This one's definitely based towards younger audiences, and you can see it. Like the story's gonna reflect that in some way, and they know who the audience they're making it for. And you look at the ones you were naming off, it's even though there's a lot of the action, it's a lot of like the shonen angst and all that kind of stuff, it's usually for older teens that applies the most towards. While with this one, it's definitely more like younger teens, preteens kind of idea. And I definitely feel like there's a difference between those kind of shonen genres.
Yeah. Part of what brings this up is really like the impact that something like Demon Slayer has had.
Yes.
On the community, because Demon Slayer is it's got all the great action you could want, fantastic world building, great characters, but it doesn't have the whole, I mean, Inosuke does a whole lot of screaming, but like but
that's a character
is not
quirk. It's not like
everybody
in the show does exactly that thing. It's just Inosuke being Inosuke, and you expect it, and you love
exactly. And while there are parts where like everyone's like, oh, I gotta eat, nom nom nom, it's not like I've overworked myself this episode, now I have to eat like an entire feast for 20 people and pack that away because I'm a growing boy. Like Demon Slayer, weirdly enough, has a very human, very emotional approach to its action and to its plot, and because that has resonated with a whole lot of people are now looking for that to be in their shonen series. And meanwhile, shonen has also had to kind of like compete with its isekai subgenre that's been doing its own thing. And so like I feel like that ties like this is an anime that I hope does well, just to kind of like stand up as that pillar of like, hey guys, this is what we used to be. It's pretty cool. Like, let's not forget what really makes shonen enjoyable.
Right. Let's move on to the next one then. Love of Kill, which is going to be done by Platinum Vision. So this one, so you've got the shonen for like younger audiences. You've got the shonen, I mean, and that goes from like age 2 all the way up to adult, basically.
Yeah.
And then and like once you get an adult, you get more into the seinen, the more like mature kind of genres. Love of Kill definitely fits into that. Basically, you've got a bounty hunter and then a full-on assassin, and the assassin has fallen in love with the bounty hunter for some reason. And there's all sorts of crap going down because of that. Because you've got like another assassin come in and it's just like, I don't know if you're good enough for my assassin, buddy. I'm gonna test you, and like literally crashes their car off of a cliff. It's
like Braveheart. Who are you? I am your son's war adjutant. Oh, really? Yes, I advise him on all military matters. Really? Well, tell me. Advise me. What would you do in this? And he then proceeds to throw the guy out the window.
Yeah, it's very dark. It's very unapologetic about like the death that's happening in it.
It's love of kill.
Yeah, it's love of kill. But like there's very interesting like actual romance that's going on. There's a lot of like the fighting and the serious bits and all that kind of stuff, but it's kind of fun watching, even though you've got all of this like dark gloom death going on. There's kind of a cute little romance going on between the two characters as they build it up, even though it starts out the guy's basically stalking her, and that's not good. But
no, I'll be honest,
none of this is good.
I'll be honest, I think I'm going to skip Love of Kill and just go on to Spy X Family.
Yes,
next season, because that looks looking forward amazing.
To that one. I love the manga
so
for
amazing. And just like reading one chapter, I'm like, oh my gosh, these characters are amazing.
These I almost felt like Love of Kill and Spy Family are two sides of the same coin, though. Love of Kill, it's very much the like dark hidden world that is hinted at in Spy Family. While in Spy Family, you have a lot more comedy and joy and whatnot, but like it's the same coin. You just don't see both sides at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I was a fan of the manga already and was excited when I found out it's becoming an anime, so that's me. Let's move on to our last regular show.
We've kind of been saving this one for last.
We have been saving this one for last. Okay, this one's the one, and like I've seen some of the opening credit, read a bunch of the manga now. My Dress Up Darling, which is by Cloverworks, okay? I'm expecting wonderful stuff.
It looks freaking gorgeous.
It like just the manga itself is freaking gorgeous. The artwork is so beautifully done, and whoever the artist group that draws it for the author, for the mangaka, they do a fantastic job. And it really relies on that visual perspective because it focuses a lot on cosplay and like the cosplay community and like dressing up and how to make these different cosplay and whatnot. That's one of the main features of the show. And like having that visual aspect to it really complements it.
I'm going to say right here, this is something that I like about this story right here is that this feels believable.
Yes.
There's a lot of romance stories where it's just like, oh, like if you honestly step back from it, you're like, yeah, that's kind of forced right there. It's something I can actually see happening. If you're in the whole circuit of comic conventions, anime conventions, and you get into the world of cosplayers, people who do theater, all this kind of stuff, I can see this happening. Because you meet all kinds of people within the world of costume making.
Yeah.
And when you find someone who can do a good job, people latch onto that person.
Yes.
And they're just all like, I want to work with you. I want to work with you because they know what happens if it goes wrong and just the embarrassment that comes with that. And so if you find someone who does a good job, you're going to stick to that person. And when you stick to that person, romance can happen.
Right? The two characters are so cute together, and to the point where they haven't like confessed anything, but they've fallen hard for each other. Oh man, they're so much fun. Like the guy keeps getting embarrassed over different stuff, and he's like, why aren't you embarrassed about that? And the girl's like, huh? And then like literally the next scene she gets embarrassed about something, but it's not the thing that he was worried about. And she's like, oh no, my contact's falling out. And he's like, you're barely wearing anything. Why are you embarrassed about your contacts?
Hey. Losing your vision in one eye sucks.
Okay. I can give you that. But it's such a cute story and really well written. You do have to go into it understanding there's going to be a lot of promiscuous scenes. You have to go in expecting it. You're going to see some skin.
There's going to be a lot of people, though, who are going to watch this just for that. And who are going to get frustrated that there ain't no hanky-panky going on.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't... Ishizoku reviewers, okay? We're not gonna get...
Oh.
At least I hope that isn't what happened, because, like, Ishizoku reviewers went from, oh, like, the manga is pretty straightforward, you don't really see any of that, even though they talk about it, to the anime is a full-on hentai.
Yeah, but then again, I mean, the story kind of lends itself to that in Ishizoku reviewers.
Yes, yes. You understand why there's so much skin in this one, because...
That makes sense. It makes sense with My Dress Up Darling.
Yeah. Because it's like, yeah, of course you're gonna have to get my actual physical measurements in order to make custom clothing for me. That's nothing new. I'm looking forward to, like, the artwork for it. I already have the main girl as my waifu. Like, that... She's high up on my waifu list at the moment. Just saying. She's so freaking cute. And normally I'm not into the gal girls, like the Japan gal girl kind of setup. She's so much of her own character, has so much of her own spunk and character about her. Like, she's instantly magnetic in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
All right, should we jump into the pit?
All right, let's just dive into the isekai.
Okay, so we've got 4 brand new isekai here. We've got one with, well, actually, no, 2, 3 with OP characters that'll handle it completely differently.
Yep.
And then we've got one absolutely insane piece of work that I'm looking forward to, because it's just people are gonna be talking about this one. They're not talking about it yet, but once they see some of the insanity involved, I think it's gonna blow up. But I want to save that one for last. I'm gonna talk about Liedel.
Scotty, take the wheel.
Liedel.
Oh, that one. Okay,
Yeah.
No, Daichi, you need to... Okay, that one is the one that I am most interested in.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
and I'm going to tell you why. Because even though we got an OP character and everything like that, I like the story that she's basically dead in her own world. I like that they basically full on commit to the whole Sword Art Online premise of you've been locked into a video game and there's no way out. Why? Because you're basically dead.
Yeah.
Welcome. You're now stuck in the game. You're now stuck in the game.
I like,
and that during this whole like weird process of coming into the game's world has evolved beyond where she was.
Right. There's like a time jump of several hundred years.
Exactly. And that the things that she's been doing in the game have consequences.
Yes.
That she now has to pick up and deal with going forward. And I like that it's also a slow burn beginning. I was happy with that. I was happy with the slow burn and the consequences.
Very easy going into that. I love how she's finally realizing these people I knew as these NPC characters, they actually have life to them at this point. Realizing, like you said, that there's consequences to her actions, and there's consequences to the actions she made when she was in a game, which embarrasses her to no end, and I love it.
I'm so excited.
She's like, don't talk about my Chunibyo phase. Please don't talk about my Chunibyo phase.
Oh, we will talk
we
about that.
will expose everything about your Chunibyo phase.
When we get to that point in the anime, it's going to be great.
Right. Yeah, I love it.
I like this. I don't know how good the animation is going to be, just going off of the trailer, but I like the story.
Yeah,
I like the story. If they adapt the story well,
film does.
This will be good.
They did Standing on a Million Lives. They did.
Oh no!
Even if it's for my daughter, I defeat the Demon Lord.
Okay.
Yeah, there's like, I'm not saying they're the worst anime studio out there. They just don't have the.
Oh, look, I'm not going to say they're the worst, but
yeah, it's good enough for what it is, but it does have flaws. It definitely does. I think it'll be a fun, like, easygoing isekai, which when you get so many that take themselves too seriously with how OP the character is and everything, that especially like, oh crap, I have the worst time with the English names, honestly. The strongest sage of the disqualified crest, the Shikakumon no Saikyo Kenja. This one takes itself very lightly. And then we get into the one I just mentioned, the strongest sage with the disqualified crest. And the character is way too OP. I guess you can't technically call this one an isekai. It's more of a reincarnation.
Yeah, it's a reincarnation
kind
of
setup, but it plays itself off as an isekai very much so. I like how it puts effort into not having the same old video game status. kind of stuff, that
nice.
a bunch of stuff. It's nice that it sets that up, but main character's so OP that
he's so OP, and I do not like the
matters.
crest system. I'll be honest, I do not like the crest system. The crest system sucks.
Yeah.
I looked at it in the part in the manga where it breaks it down. It's like, oh, this is the poor man's version of allomancy.
Yep.
Which, if you don't know what allomancy is the magic from Mistborn, which is fantastic. There's a fantastic magic system. This right here is like, this is the poor man's version of allomancy. I don't like it. And, like, I give him points. I give him credit. Breaking away from the whole video game status setup. Was happy for that. The opening really didn't make any sense to me, where he's like, I must get stronger. So rather than actually put any effort into becoming stronger and like fighting monsters, like he says he wants to go out into the universe and battle gods, rather than actually build himself up to that, he takes the cheap route and forces himself to be reincarnated to hopefully get a better crest so he can then have another shot at it.
Right. And then it drops him in a world that's
stupid.
Yeah, and it does the same thing that Misfit of the Demon Academy does, where it drops him in a world where the entire magic system's been nerfed. And so he's suddenly the strongest thing that exists, period, even though he's like 8 years old when he starts. It's just kind of stupid. It's frustrating to watch.
It's really stupid. And like the family dynamic is awful too.
Yep.
There was a part of me that at first was like, so are they trying to go for like a whole like Al and Ed dynamic over here? No, none of that at all.
Nope.
He just hates it. His brothers are all just incompetent idiots, and his dad is a useful idiot.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so dumb.
Yep.
So I had a hard time reading that one, to be all honest.
All right.
So I have no hope for that anime.
Yep. I actually like this next one. Well, I like both of the next ones just because I like gender bender media in the first place. Though this one, she professed herself the disciple of the wise men, the Kenja no Deshi no Kenja.
Yes.
It kind of... It happens, and then it just kind of, like, other than mentioning it here and there, it brushes it under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, accidentally swap genders before a whole Log Horizon event happened to us. Does it actually matter to the story? No. It really doesn't matter to the story, other than the fact that the character's appearance changed.
Yeah.
That's honestly the main part.
Completely OP.
Yes, completely OP character. It does have the problem with, like, the OP character, and, like, there's nothing they can do to compete with. It ends up becoming kind of a travel blog, almost, as the character goes from, like, point to point, taking care of errands for the king. I enjoyed the story for the same reason I enjoy some other lighthearted isekai. It's fun at times. It has some, like, fun little humor here and there. There's no challenge whatsoever. It's not all that engaging because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I like it, and I've read through all of the manga that I could, but it has its flaws. It definitely has its flaws.
Yeah, this is one that I'm going to skip just because it didn't hold my attention really long enough. It was like, this could be interesting, but nah.
Yep.
Once again, OP not done well enough.
Right. Want to move into the batshit insane one?
Yes.
I don't even know what the English name is going to be for this one. I'm just going to go with the Japanese one. Fantasy Bishoujo Juniku Ojisan To. And that's what the name is. I'm curious what the...
It's going to be fantasy gender swap?
Well, yes. It starts off right off the bat that way. Another one where it's the first one by this specific studio. So that'll be interesting. Again, it looks like it's a split-off team of something. I'm not sure from what. But it looks like it's a split-off team. But like I said, this is absolutely crazy.
I've told you guys this before. Like, sometimes when I read an anime, I'm like, okay, I read a manga, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. It's kind of holding my attention. Not yet all the way there. I'm going to perform a cardinal sin, and I'm going to jump to the back.
Okay.
And I'm going to see if it's still interesting, even if I have no idea what the heck is going on.
Okay.
Because if I feel like it's going to drop off a cliff, then this insanity is not worth the investment of time.
Right.
Wow. From first chapter to the last chapter, I was like, these guys have an amazing amount of character development that I can already tell. I have no idea how they got there.
Right.
But from the first chapter to the most recent chapter, it's like, there's a lot of development going on right here. And it still retains that absolute high bar of insanity. I'm like,
right.
Like, okay, this has my attention.
Yeah. No, this one drops you into the deep end right off the bat. And it doesn't take any prisoners. You literally have a character who's like completely drunk, upset because they can't get any any dates with anybody, and they're like, I wish I was a girl so I could actually date people. And this love goddess from another world shows up and is like, I'm gonna grant your wish, but I have to kill you first. And like get summoned to another world. They badmouth the goddess. The goddess, you know what, I'm gonna curse you. The main character, who's now female,
girl,
yeah, quotation marks. I mean, nowadays that could mean anything. It's literally what anybody identifies as. But like,
yeah,
they automatically go into is like, I did not actually want this to happen, and but like they get cursed, so like anytime they look at each other, they start like having feelings for each other, and they're like, uh-oh, that's not good. And then it gets worse. Because like anybody who sees the girl ends up falling in love with her. Well, any male that sees the girl anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And it just keeps going, and like this world is screwed. Just saying that right now. They're sent to the world to get rid of the demon lord. This world is screwed, and they've sent tons of people into this world, and every one of them's absolutely crazy or been like absolutely affected in some negative way. And I feel like I'm not doing it justice like on how crazy this thing actually is.
Okay, it's not fully coolly. It has a fully coolly vibes.
Yes.
Which if you're a fan of something as insane as Fooly Cooley, and just like you can just detach yourself and just ride the tidal wave of insanity, you will enjoy this ride.
Yes, very much so. How many do you think you're actually going to be interested in watching this season?
Oh boy, you know, it's freaking, I got back to teaching school.
Oh no.
I'm going to make a concentrated effort to watch Sabuki Bisco, My Dress Up Darling.
Okay.
And then Leadale no Daichi Nite.
Okay,
and,
yeah.
And Fantasy Bishoujo. Those are the ones, the new anime that I will try to keep up with.
I'm kind of right there with you. Fantasy Bishoujo, My Dress Up Darling, Love of Kill, and then Sabuki Bisco is probably my top ones. She professed herself the disciple of the wise men. It falls very much into what I've said of other like isekai stuff, that I enjoyed the story. It's fun, but I've already read the manga. I don't really need to sit down and watch the anime and like go through the story again.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. It's not worth that second go.
Yeah. There's certain stories that just like once you've done it, you're like, okay, that was fine.
Yep.
I don't need to do that again.
Yep.
Requiem of the Rose King. I am going to give that one a shot. I don't know how it's going to necessarily turn out. I don't know. Like my thoughts on it are kind of conflicted, just because I'm like, oh, I love history, and I enjoy Shakespeare. This is a take on a Shakespearean play, not so much on the history, which could be kind of interesting right there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know how like it could end up being really good, or it could end up being really bad. Maybe this is just because like I'm having horror flashbacks to really poorly done recent BBC shows on historical events.
Right.
And I'm just all like, why? Come on. Just bring back Sharp's rifles or something like that. Right. That's good.
That's hilarious.
So yeah. And as I said, I need a binge 86.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of anime I need to binge right now.
And come back to, okay, so I actually want to do like I know that we've already kind of gone for pretty long right here, but I actually kind of want to do like a quick catch up on like some of the things that we had talked about for fall season. That
we didn't actually talk about the fall season.
Well, we did talk about. We didn't record it, but like we had
right.
talked about the fall season, and we had the whole list and everything.
Yeah.
We had gone over it. My Senpai is Annoying.
Mm-hmm.
That was gorgeous anime.
that one's one I need to binge.
It's absolutely worth it. It is absolutely worth it. It's almost like Nagatoro, where it's just like they did not have to go that far in terms of animation, but they did.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets even better because of it. the people behind this anime loved what they were doing, and it shows throughout the whole thing, which makes it so much fun. And Tsuki to Laika, that was incredibly done.
Really?
I do have gripes with the last episode, because I'm like, that last episode could have basically have been an entire season in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of does the show a disservice. Like I would be all like, hands down, absolutely 100% recommend this to everyone and anyone, except for that last episode, because the last episode tries to do too much.
Yeah.
It rushes a lot of very important plot points, and so it falls flat. And I knew they were going to do this. I knew they were going to do it. They do not follow up with the romance between the two main characters. Like, they have this fantastic build-up. It's so good. And then it just gets dropped. And it's just like, oh, God. It's like, I knew you were going to do it. I knew you were going to do it because it's in the light novels. You didn't have to do it here, but you did. Screw you. It's still really, really good. I do recommend it, but that last episode, woof.
Woof. Okay, good to know. Yeah. I need to watch a bunch of stuff. There's always more stuff to watch. It never ends.
It never ends. Man, can my winter break just go on for like the next month, please?
I wish.
Thank you.
I wish I could get like a month off, like starting now, and not have to go back to work tomorrow morning. Just had the day off, and it was wonderful.
And those days off. All right, well, that's pretty much what I've got to say.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. This has been Camille's Harem / Need for Weeb. You could find us on our subreddit, /Camille's Harem. You can also find us on the Need for Weeb podcast, wherever you get podcasts, as well as the Camille's Harem YouTube channel, which there's a good chance you're probably listening to this there than the actual podcast. But hey, there is a audio version podcast that you can listen to while you're driving too.